You have found yourself on another episode of Locked On Bulls. On today's episode, we'll be previewing today's game against the New Orleans Pelicans. We'll also talk about what is the biggest concern, the Bulls' offense or defense. And then lastly, we'll talk about the Bulls having their own brand of beer. We're getting into all that and more on today's Locked On Bulls.
You are Locked On Bulls, your daily podcast on the Chicago Bulls. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Bulls your first listen every day. Locked On Bulls, member of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. That's Pat the Designer, host and creator of the Windy City Breeze. I'm Haize, host and creator of Chicago Bulls and Chicago Bears Central. Nonetheless, Pat, Bulls played today against the New Orleans Pelicans, a team that really kind of in the third and fourth quarter, specifically half the third quarter and almost all the fourth quarter, cooked us royally. Do the Bulls get their revenge tonight against the New Orleans Pelicans?
I think they do. I think they come out with a little bit different mindset, especially with how we've been killing them over the last 3 days. The interesting thing about all this spaces in between games, right, is like, hey, you guys get more rest, but also like, hey, get it together for like the next 2 days. Yeah. So, and listen, we know that they hear us. We know that they're listening to Locked On Bulls weekly. They're faithfully subscribed to the page, and this is the only podcast they tune into. So, I think they do end up getting their revenge versus the Pelicans tonight. I think the big thing is going to be here's the tough part, right? It comes down to one thing: Billy Donovan adjusting. So how much are we going to see of that? Because the big thing that we saw that killed us, right, was just a prolonged run of Alex Caruso guarding Brandon Ingram. And in the last game, you saw a prolonged run
of Alex Caruso guarding
Michael Porter Jr.
It was almost out. You know what? I would like to see an overlap of some of those plays, and I'm sure they look exactly the same.
He did better on B.I. than he did on Michael Porter Jr. in fairness.
Yeah. But with that being said, it's because Michael Porter Jr. also has a way quicker release than B.I. So
yeah, Michael Porter Jr. Well, he's a god shooting the basketball. So, hey, Wendell. But anyway, I think the thing is right for me that it does come down to that, and we could see more of the same. I think that's the issue, right? Like there could be those moments where you're not going with what I would believe is your best defender in those moments, and the guy that seems to be figuring out ways that he can create a little bit more offensively. It comes down to me is Billy Donovan going to run that, and then what kind of heart are we going to see? I mean, in the Pelicans game, the Bulls played like they had heart. The Bulls played like they were trying, like they were fighting to get the win. They just didn't come out with the win, right? And we had some issues offensively that we've had all season long, and we'll talk about that in the next segment. But I think that this is one, right, where when you look at the job that the Bulls did versus the Pelicans, they have to come out with that same intensity defensively, or it's going to be a long night. Like I in here, like, yeah, I feel like they're going to get there because the Bulls are pretty good at getting revenge. The only game we've got to really like to back that up with is Toronto, right, where you saw 113-104 in the first game, second game 111-97. We want to make sure you're not better than us. So hopefully we're going to see that here tonight versus the Pelicans. But it all comes down to me, like what kind of adjustments are we going to see on this team, and what kind of heart are we going to see this team come up with?
I mean, you hit the nail on the head there. It really comes down to the intensity that this team decides to play with, and that's the thing about the Chicago Bulls that honestly is most concerning, because most of their issues that we see, there's going to be times where you're out when you just don't have the skill, or even Caruso being outsized. Basically, that's not on Caruso. That's on Coach Billy Donovan for not making a damn adjustment. But a lot of the things that face the Bulls, the turnovers, things like that, it's all within their control to get in. The officiating, yeah, it sucked. That's outside of our control. The things that we can control, though, I need to see the Bulls do a better job at doing that. That is defensive intensity.
Yeah, that is the game that was poorly officiated, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, we should have cooked them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I forgot about
that. That was a game that literally Stacey King, now I forgot who was doing the play-by-play with them.
I think it was Jason Benetti, wasn't it?
They literally, it was about 5 calls throughout the game that they were in play. It was like, yeah, that's wrong. Russ got that one wrong. It was just like, come on, brothers, get it together out there, Russ.
Oh, that's the elbow smack, ain't it, on P. Will going for the open dunk. That's the first, yeah. That feels so long ago. That was only 2 games.
That was only 2 games, which is bananas. But we did have 3 days off in there, so that's why it feels. This is why I feel so. But yeah, the Bulls just have to execute. And then at the end of the day, too, I am on the now full bandwagon and train of Zach LaVine, you have to play like the $200 million player you are.
Yeah.
And we've seen glimpses of it. We've seen quarters of it. We've seen halves of it. We need to see it for a full 4 quarters. And I will continue to say this. Zach LaVine is putting together his best defensive season of his career so far.
Yeah.
Almost easily. When you look at the metrics of it, his on-off numbers are better. His defensive ratings better. All that is some of the best defensively of his career. But we also still need you to be the scorer, Zach. We still need that.
It feels like Zach is trying to work his way back into what he's used to doing because I think you see it a little bit more kind of later in games when he has nothing to go to. But for the most part, the shots have been off this season. And you haven't seen him supplement that with, okay, I'm going to drive to the basket. And I think it's because, right, like, and this can't be the mindset. I think we've seen the Bulls kind of fall in love with the jump shot, even mid-range or three-pointer, because they feel like they're not getting the foul calls under the paint.
Yeah.
But you're not going to get the foul calls in the paint if you're not going to the paint, right? And the Bulls have actually been a decent paint scoring team this season, and they're just not getting the fouls that come with it. So I think right now, right, that's the thing that I'm focusing in on the most with this Bulls team is, right, like, are you going to be able to hit I think I said it in the solo episode. I don't know if I said it in the last episode, but you're not going to be successful with anything in life if you can't adjust. And that applies so much here to basketball. Like, there's so many things that happen inside of a basketball game, just an NBA game, but a basketball game in general, right? Like, that if you're not able to adjust to them, players, coach, whatever, whoever you want to put it on, right? Like, you're not going to be able to do more. And it seems like the Chicago Bulls default back to where they're comfortable at more times than not. And that's not adjusting to the game that's in front of you. What's Zach LaVine comfortable at? Pulling up the three. What's DeMar DeRozan comfortable at? Trying to get the foul call while also DeMar does try to finish through the contact, but trying to get that foul call, right? Where's Vooch comfortable at? It seems like he's more comfortable shooting the three this year than he's been than he was last year, but he looked really good down low, but he keeps defaulting back to that 3-point shot. You know what I'm saying? So, like, for me, I just want to see them not go where they're most comfortable, but where they're most successful at in that moment of the game. Not to say don't do the other stuff, because I think you need to do the other stuff to be successful, but you have to be able to adjust to what the game is giving you. And I think that the Bulls have struggled with that a lot this season.
Absolutely. Me and you've talked about it. Like, when things get tough, this team gets to isolation ball and watching when I think they need to go to letting Vooch operate down low and playing off Vooch. It's a lot of things this team could do to adjust. And that's why, I'm not as down as some Bulls fans are. I understand them being down completely. This isn't one of those times where Bulls fans are a little down and I don't understand it at all.
No,
I
get
completely
it.
understand
I get it
where you guys are coming from this time.
It's early, but I get it.
Yeah, for sure. And at the end of the day, it's this, right? The adjustments that need to be made, hopefully we see them made. It may take longer than we like with Billy Donovan. It may take that. And during the in-game adjustments, that's where my biggest concern is. But the game-to-game adjustments, Billy Donovan's usually pretty good at.
Yeah, and I think the thing is, right, like, you want to stick with – here's the thing. And weirdly enough, it came from the owner of the Raiders, so don't use this anywhere else. But the statement he made was correct. Now, his team is terrible. His head coach is terrible. I think they made the wrong hire. That's neither here nor there. Yeah. But he said, we live in such a world where you just want instant gratification. You want to see
microwave
that
society.
The success of the decisions that you make work right now.
Mm-hmm.
And that's clear to see with a lot of these teams, right? That's clear to see with even teams that make quick decisions inside of their front office, right? We thought this was going to work. This ain't going to work. Like, we've seen teams, right, in the NBA sign guys. That guy doesn't work for the first 30 games, and they're like, all right, now we're trying to move on from him. And it's like, oh, okay. Like, hey, like, well, that's not how, like, life works. So I think that, right, with the Bulls, I do like the fact that Billy Donovan, adjustment-wise, Billy's going to try something until there's proven 110% data that doesn't work. Sometimes I think he sticks with that too long in game, and that mindset in game, again, being able to adjust, being able to pivot can hurt you. But from game to game, like you said, I like that Billy Donovan doesn't just go away from something because it didn't work in that one moment, right? Like, it might not work in that moment, but here's the thing with most of these teams. This is the trial run for you. And I want to know more from the Bulls. How do they bounce back off of losses? How do they bounce back from losing to teams? Because you got to lose to them to learn how they play, or you got to at least be in a competitive game with them to learn how they play, right? I want to know how you bounce back against the Pelicans. You lost to this team. Okay, what happened in that game that you lost that you're going to make the adjustment on? that's where I can say the Bulls this season at a minimum have been better. Like I said, we've only seen the one game, but like the Boston game, like they didn't let Boston creep back or get out to a big lead. They played a completely different defense in that first quarter, and all of a sudden, Boston's not raining threes on your head from the from the heavens, So I've been intrigued with how the Bulls have bounced back. I also just think Boston has more talent than us, but that's a different topic.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. Next up, we're going to talk about the Bulls offense and defense and which one's been the biggest issue for the Bulls according to the numbers. But first, I got to talk to you guys about Turo. Turo is the largest car sharing marketplace. With Turo, you can book any car you want, wherever you want it, from a community of local hosts. Browse a huge selection of vehicles for just about any occasion or budget across the US, UK, Canada, and coming soon to Australia. Book a spacious SUV or minivan for a family trip. Get a classic luxury car for a special event, birthday, or holiday. Find affordable economy cars if you're on a budget and just need to get from A to B. Test drive the new electric vehicle you've had your eye on to see how it fits in your everyday life. Many Turo hosts can even deliver the car right to you. Every trip is backed by liability insurance. Terms and conditions and exclusions apply. For booking rental cars and find your drive at Turo.com. All right, also got to talk to you guys about the old faithful Built Bar. Hey. Can we just pause for a second? Okay, we pause. Great, because you got to try this. I'm talking about Built Bar's new reimagined flavors. Cookie dough topper, coconut brownie bar, coconut brownie topper, white chocolate peppermint granola. It's Built's take on granola bar, so it's more filling and still insanely tasty. And candy cane brownie puff. Built Puffs are like biting into the universe's most precious, delicious cloud. First off, for anyone who hasn't tried Built Bars before, they're literally the best tasting protein bars ever built. They're revolutionizing nutrition, and we do it with 100% real chocolate, 17 grams of protein, and shockingly low sugar and calories, only 130 calories. Just sink your teeth into the first bite, and it'll change your life forever. I'm not kidding. There will be a good time you've tried Built Bars and these new flavors. And the magical, wonderful time afterwards, you're probably wondering which new flavor is my favorite, and the unanswerable questions, to say the least, they're all unbelievable. And they're all different, so you can order a mixed box and try all 5 flavors for yourself. Get 15% off your order right now by using code LOCK15 at Built.com. All right, Pat.
I ain't even gonna lie, I ain't got it up. Hey, I forgot about it, man. We do want to thank you guys for making Locked On Bulls your first listen every day. Now for your second listen, go check on Locked On Sports Today. From the games that matter the most to the biggest stories in sports, go beyond the scoreboard and behind the scenes with local experts and insight that only Locked On can provide. Locked On Sports Today, available on this app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts.
I don't care what nobody say, bro. You my dude forever, man. That's crazy.
Hey, bro, when I heard the music, I was like, oh, no. Because I done closed out of the ad read on that. I got my specific ad that I'm reading. I was like, oh, no. I ain't got it. I was going to just start reading, but I was like, nah, you got to time that up better. All time, even just then. I didn't have it until I got to from the games that matter. That's as soon as it loaded up. It's tough.
That is hilarious, bro. Hey, listen. All right, man. We got to talk about the Bulls, man. Offense, defense, bro. Interesting set of statistics came out, bro. I'm going to turn this one over to you, man. Talking about the Bulls' offense and defense and the fact that the Bulls actually ranked pretty solid defensively. What do you think, brother?
I mean, they're a good defensive team, right? Like, there are moments that we argue about, but I think for the most part this season, we haven't complained about the defense a ton. In fact, we've praised the defense. We've complained about specific moments of defense. We've complained about the Bulls' first quarter defense. The Bulls in the first quarter were getting outscored, and it's probably back up. I got to see if I can find their first quarter numbers, but it's probably back up there. But I mean, they get outscored quite a bit in the first quarter for the most part, right? Like, and then we kind of saw them adjust on that probably over the last couple of weeks, and it's looked a lot better. But we haven't complained in total on the Chicago Bulls defense. I think the one complaint that we've had most of this season, and it'll continue to be my biggest complaint because it was a complaint I had last season, and they have to figure out something how to do it. Some offensive action, some offensive adjustment, something. It's the droughts. You know, and I think that's the Bulls' biggest problem right now. And I think it's why, right, you see the Bulls sitting 8th best defensive rating in the NBA right now, 110.7. But only a net rating of -1, which is 20th in the league, because their offensive rating is 110.6, which you got to admit is also kind of impressive to have a net rating of only -1. But what that's telling you is your margin for error is so that you're making it twice as hard on yourself. And that's what we've seen from this team this season.
Yeah.
The close games, the Bulls have not been able to close out. Yeah, they're able to clamp up. They're able to step up and get a stop in those tough moments. But it's so this, right? And then if you've got this much of a margin of error, you're saying, okay, is my best player better than your best player? And there's a lot of times this season where I think early on we would say we've been on the losing end of that, especially right like when the Pelicans game, BI over Zach LaVine or BI over DeMar DeRozan.
Mm-hmm.
If it comes down to a last minute jump shot, I think BI is going to knock that down. DeMar DeRozan has struggled a little bit earlier this season, so I think there's I think there's a beginning of the season jitters that come into this, and jitters is probably the wrong word to use there, but because that's like nervous. They're not nervous, but beginning of the season, like working the rust off basically. And defensively, right? Like defensive is just effort.
Yeah.
And if you can come out and you understand what you're doing and you've got some effort, like you're going to do a lot better. And I think Billy Donovan has also done a really excellent job putting those specific defensive lineups out there, specific offensive lineups out there. I feel like we just haven't seen the ball going in as much offensively.
For sure. When you look at the offensive side of the ball, there's a couple things. I actually saw another article. I don't have it up right now that actually went to interesting stat. The Bulls are passing the ball considerably more than what they did last season.
Oh yeah.
And with that, it's kind of growing pains and work and going from a team that didn't move the ball as much to a team that's moving the ball. And honestly, I think it's gone up like 15%, which is huge. I know we still talk sometimes about wanting to see players move without the ball, but this team passes the ball. They move the ball around a lot. And I think that the turnovers are in part because of that. This team is still learning to do that. Now, I will say this. If you move without the ball on top of moving the actual ball, that's what gets people out of passing lanes. So this team needs to do that to eliminate some of those turnovers. But when this team, hopefully they do, and if they do get those turnovers underhand, I think that we see our offensive rating jump up, and then that's going to eliminate that negative differential and get us into the positive, which we started off the season with like a positive +6 differential over the first, I think, 5 games. So we need to get back to that. And I think eliminating those turnovers is going to help big time with that for the Bulls.
Yeah, I think the struggle is, right, like you're also trying to work some things back in early on now, like right after the last game, I'm assuming they're worked in, but you think about Andre Drummond, right? The Bulls are one of the best rebounding teams in the NBA to start this season. Since they've been missing Andre Drummond for those few games, right? Bulls are 20th in offensive rebounds. They're 20th in rebounds among the NBA. And again, right, like their opponents right now, they're 3rd in offensive rebounds going up against the Bulls. They allow 9.1 offensive boards a game, and they're 8th in rebounds allowed a game for the opponent, right? So basically they've allowed their opponents to get the 8th most rebounds, 42.3 a game, right? So like you're trying to figure out some different things through the injury, and you still see that this team is heavily predicated on very specific players coming in and doing their job. I think Patrick Williams has done a better job rebounding this season. But you still see, right, like you just see those numbers, and they're very like stark contrast from one to the other. Like when you look at a lot of the defensive numbers, a lot of the rebounding numbers, it's like, okay, we're doing all right. But then you just see those offensive numbers. The Bulls right now, 22nd in field goals attempted. Like I think that's my biggest issue with this team. Like attempted. They're 25th in 3-pointers attempted. I'm sorry, 28th in 3-pointers attempted. They're 25th in 3-pointers made. They're 20th in field goals made, right? Like those are the offensive numbers that I'm looking at. Now, I will give them this, right? They're 14th in 3-point percentage, which is better than last year. We were at the bottom of the NBA in 3-point percentage last year. But the thing is, right, like you have to get those offensive numbers up. And I don't understand a lot of times, right, like why we're not taking more shots until you look at this number here. We're still giving up 7.5 turnovers a game.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, the Bulls, and that's what goes back to what I was saying before. Most of the issues are in the Bulls' control, right? It'd be different if the team
16.5 turnovers.
That's crazy,
game. I was mistaken on that. I was reading steals per game. We're 6th in the NBA with 8. We give up 16.4 turnovers a game.
Yeah, we got to get that underhand. And I think hopefully this Bulls team will. I trust that this Bulls team is going to execute better. And keep in mind, we also missed Andre Drummond for 6 games out of that. He's going to help with some of the differentials on those things as well. And, it's not as bad as some Bulls fans would have you believe, and it's not as good as some of the more positive Bulls fans would have you believe, too, because at the end of the day, it is in their control to fix it. But the fact that they haven't fixed it yet, it can go either way. So we'll see what this team ends up doing.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing, right, is like, even Billy Donovan called them out for this. It's your mindset. And I've said that the last few episodes, right? Like since that game, like the Bulls mindset seems off. The Bulls mindset seems like a team that, we got Steph Curry, we got Klay Thompson, we got Draymond Green. We'll be back. Don't worry about it. We can come back in this game whenever we want to.
That's one of my biggest hot takes right now of the NBA season, by the way, that the Warriors just don't care right now.
And but here's the thing, right? Like I feel the same way about the Bulls.
Which is weird. If that's the case, that's
feel
weird.
Like Chicago Bulls right now don't care, and I feel like in the long run, right, that is going to be okay. But is it? Like, are you like that? That's like a lot of championships. But there's also a lot of good teams that are kind of that same way. But that's a lot of championships for them to like. I don't really care this early in the season.
Yeah,
you ain't got them. Like you can't hold on to MJ's championships and be like, "We got sick." Nah, bro, get out of here.
Yeah, woo! All right. But with that being said, let's move into the last topic for today.
I actually got the read up now, brother. Come on, man. If I got it, let me do it. You know what I mean? If I got it, let me do it. Hey, we want to let you guys know that BetOnline.net, your number one source for sports betting info, stats, news, and analysis. Get the latest odds and trends for every professional and amateur league out there, from football to NBA to soccer and esports. We've got it all at BetOnline.net, and if you love sports podcasts, you can find those at BetOnline as well. They're the fastest and easiest way to get your betting fix. Head to BetOnline's website and use your mobile device to learn more. BetOnline, that's where the game starts.
Dun, 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 dun. All right, Pat. So now, can I play the music now? Is it okay with you if I play the music?
Wait a minute. Why are you so aggressive?
Listen. It is what it is.
It is.
So as we get ready to wrap up, bro, we just got something to talk about. The Bulls have announced a partnership with Goose Island to the Bulls have their own beer, which Goose Island is a good beer as well. But these cans, bro, I will say this. I'm not the biggest fan of the Bulls City Edition jerseys, but some of the stuff they're putting the City Edition design on looks great. And these beer cans look amazing, bro.
I am a fan of 312. I love 312. And it looks like, I don't know if it's that specific beer, but I do see the 312 on the can. So I'm assuming that it is the 312 beer. But yeah, I like a lot of what the Bulls are putting together out here. I like a lot of just kind of like how the team is ingratiating a lot of the city's companies into what they're doing. And I mean, it is a fire can. I was trying to see if I could find it on Twitter. I know Daniel Greenberg had it, but it's a pretty fire can. And it's very much, if I'm not mistaken, I want to say 312 also had a deal with the White Sox for a can.
Yes.
Goose Island, I believe, had a deal with the White Sox for a can. So you know that relationship already built up there. So good to see the Bulls. I mean, let me pull this up. If you're listening on the podcast side, head over to the YouTube side, 2350. That's pretty fire. And I'm not gonna lie to you, I don't know who has the ball rack set up behind it, but the photography on this is
bro.
The photography on this is on point.
The way that the Bull logo eyes are right above, like where they are situated above the can, there's enough space. It's beautiful, bro. It's beautiful.
That's a nerd moment for us. Like that's a content creation nerd moment. What I will say is this: this a go-to beer for you? You a 312 guy?
I'm not really a 312 guy.
Or Goose Island guy at all?
So Goose Island was one.
I don't know if this is 312. I guess I should stop saying
it. Well, it says 312 on the. So 312.
But that's also just Chicago.
True, but it says the wheat L right underneath it. So I do think it is
okay. So it might be 312.
But Goose Island actually was the first. When I actually started liking beer, was one of the first beers that I actually started drinking. Because I had that moment everybody does when I was about 22 and I was like, beer is disgusting. And then all of a sudden it was like. Around 29, I was like, you know what, beer ain't actually that bad if it's ice cold.
Fam, I'm not gonna lie to you. I always wonder, like, It's so weird to me, right? Like when this is just a random alcohol moment. It's so weird to me when people just like bash a drink in entirety
Exactly.
because they had a couple that they don't like. And I'm like, did you like like Svedka's disgusting to me, but I didn't stop drinking vodka because of it. You know what I mean? Like I didn't all just be like, oh, well, yeah, all vodka's terrible. Like you got to experiment with it.
When you're younger, you just think beer is beer, right? Then you start finding out about stouts and all like the different types of beers, and it's like, okay, this makes sense. Let me find out what works for me.
Nah, so. Yeah, that's it. It's I'll say this, it's pretty dope. I like the
4.2 percentage alcohol as well.
It'll get you that. Shorty, I could take you there. This might have to be an on stream.
Can we do that on Locked On?
I don't know if we can do that on Locked On, but at a minimum, I can do it on The Breeze, and I know you can do it on CBC because y'all can do anything over there. So this might have to be a Bulls live,
co-stream.
A live co-stream. We might have to do a game where we both testing it out. I mean, if it's 3-1-2, I know it's gonna be good. Yeah. Which it is 3-1-2 wheat ale. So I know it's good.
You're gonna have easy access to it there. I'm gonna have to order it. Now I'm guaranteeing I'm not gonna be able to walk into the store here.
I'm gonna say this. Y'all liquor stores when I came down to Ohio had some
pretty
stuff that
pretty impeccable, right?
I was not prepared to. So like I had the Bird Dog sponsor. Yeah, they didn't send me the bottle that I can get down there. It's like that tall, like that wide. I was like, oh, they drink down here.
Oh yeah, we drink. We drink. One of the few places you can buy moonshine right off the rack.
I respect it. But yeah, starting next month, this will be available for purchase, which is pretty dope, man. I mean, I'm excited to get in on it. I love Goose Island. I think they do a lot of stuff around the city as well, so I'm excited to grab some. Plus, I think I'm getting to the point where I just want to be that old dude that has the cool cans, like the dudes back in the day that just have the Wheaties box from like the 80s and 90s, just like Jordan, Peyton, Dimp, all the mugs, like Hampton. On the Wheaties box, I think I'm gonna start doing that with just random sports memorabilia because now I'm realizing it don't come back.
Wow, that's crazy, bro. See, you got with something like this, you got to get you the one to try, and then you got to get you one that you could just sit somewhere and just store.
Just sit somewhere. It's gonna be there forever. You don't drink it. It sits up there. It looks real pretty. I think a 6-pack of that'll look real fire. Yeah, I mean, you get a 6-pack, that'll be dope.
Yeah,
that'll be dope. You just got that sitting in the background. You got to throw
it's
one.
It's gonna be in the studio. It's gonna be one of the shelves in the studio, like with the rest of the Bulls memorabilia.
You got to.
Got to do it. Got to do it too. All right, bro. That's it, man. Go ahead and send this off. Brother.
Hey, man, we appreciate y'all for tuning in with us for another show, man. Follow us on everything at Locked On Bulls. Follow us both on everything at Pat the Designer, and make sure that you guys are hitting us up in the mailbag because every Friday, right? Every Friday is going to be a mailbag episode where we listen to you guys' comments, where we chop it up with y'all. We got our faithfuls on there that are going to be rocking with us. So every Friday we're going to get the mailbag in. That's something we want to bring back.
Absolutely. So we'll be back on that every single Friday. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. So be tuned in for that for us. But for Pat the Designer, I'm Haize. This is Locked On Bulls. We out this month.
Peace.
Peace.
Yeah.